Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. Today is, what is today? It's Monday, March 27th. I'm just checking. Sorry, guys. I'm just checking my, I should have checked my audio and stuff beforehand. Doing it now. Would not be the show, the live Kerfefe break, without some kind of boomer technical fail. So there, we've got that out of the way. If it's your first time here, this is a live show we do on Mondays and Fridays. We just kind of talk about what's in the news, what's on our mind. Sometimes we have guest hosts. Lately, I've been practicing doing some of these alone, which has been, thank you for bearing with me, which has been, I think, good. Kind of just talking from the heart about different things in the news or things that catch my attention. And today, I can't think about or talk about anything else. I've just been sort of focused on what happened to Posie Parker, also known as Kellie Jean Keane, over the weekend at the New Zealand Let Women Speak rally. And I don't know if other people are as obsessed with this as I am, but it's pretty much all I can think about the past few days, just because um, the amount of people who were crushing in on her and threatening her with violence and preventing her from speaking, and all of the other women from speaking, is sort of amazing to see it on camera. And then to see, I think the other reason I'm really fascinated with it is to see the way the media both played a hand in causing this and putting her life in danger, and how afterwards they've in a very Orwellian way tried to cover over what happened and to print headlines that are the exact opposite of what occurred there that day, and to say things like this was a joyful celebration. So we're going to look at all that today. I if there's something else on your mind, you can drop it in the chat. We might get to that at the end, but I want to cover the Posey Parker stuff, the Kellie J. Keane stuff. And I know there are people on the left, and some of my old friends, the ones who haven't unfriended me, who they don't even know who she is, and they're not aware of what happened. So in the off chance that they're watching or someone on the left is watching, you should see this with your own eyes and form your own opinions about it. Regardless of what you think of her opinions, you should really, keep an open mind, watch the footage, and at least, draw your own conclusions from watching the original source material instead of being told what to think by the media or politicians or celebrities. So that's what we're going to do. Just quickly, I do have two announcements. April 15th, I'm going to be hosting Minds Fest in Austin, Texas at the Vulcan Theater. There's an incredible lineup of people. It's going to be podcast, discussion, and music and comedy all in one day. And I would love to see you. There's going to be speakers like Jack Posobiec, Destiny, Daryl Davis, Ian Crossland, Luke Radowski, Peter Boghossian. You can go online at minds.com and get tickets. There's also going to be performers like Jamie Kilstein, I know, is one of the comedians performing. There's going to be music. I heard Tim Cast was going to perform, but I'm not sure anymore. Anyway, check the website and you'll find out. And that's on April 15th in Austin. The other announcement is this Wednesday, we're doing a 1-year celebration party of the Deprogram channel on Wednesday night at our regular pop culture time. Actually, we're going to start early. We're going to start at 6 p.m. Central, because there's so many people that are going to drop in and say hello, and be very gracious with their time. I'm very excited. Basically, I'm in the middle of, I'm still sending out invitations. I'm basically asking anyone who's ever been a guest on Deprogram if they would like to come on and say hello, and, for any amount of time. And so we're going to start at 6 o'clock Central. And there's a ton of people who said yes already, and there's invitations I'm still sending out. So if you've been on the show before and you're like, I haven't gotten my invitation, don't worry, it's coming today. I've got to finish it today. But so far, my husband, Anthony Garcia, is going to be there. Most important guest, right? Mystery Chris, of course. And then Drunk 3PO, Gary from Nerdrotic, Epic Mike, Steph from My Nerdy Home, Lila Hart, Gino Bisconti, Sarah Higdon, Martina Marcota, Jack Buckby, Buck Angel, Comics Division, Culture Casino, Peter Feliciano. I'm blanking on. There's a ton of other people. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Anyway, we're gonna get the full list together, and that should be fun. I think we're just gonna play games and play music and introduce different people to each other that maybe haven't met before, and and we'll probably get a video pulled down because we're going to play music, but we're going to have fun. I think the Force of Light ladies are coming too. Are they in the chat? They can tell me. I think I saw them. Hello, ladies. I hope to see you on Wednesday. I'm still going through all my invitations. Oh, I think Chris Gore is coming. So if you want to hang out that night, bring your drink, bring your cafe, your coffee. If you drink alcohol, bring your booze. If you don't bring your sparkly water or your sparkly apple juice. That's what I'm doing. Bring your favorite hat. Yes, Michelle, she'll be here. Woohoo! Okay, Michelle, let me add you. and then we're just gonna have fun and I don't know. We'll see what it's just gonna feel like. I want it to feel like a real party. That's all. It's gonna be a real party. Nerdy girl, you better show up. I see you. Excited for the celebration. Cool. Okay, that's all the announcements. Yeah, let's talk about this. Martinelli's. That's my favorite apple juice. Bring your Martinelli's if you don't drink. Bring your Topo Chico. Yes. Yes, your Texas sparkling water. Do that. Okay. So some people have still not heard about this thing that happened over the weekend. My husband was traveling doing shows and he had not heard of it, and so of course the mainstream media is not reporting on it. So you really only know about this, I guess, if you're on Twitter or if you're in New Zealand. And in New Zealand, what you're getting is very skewed. So first of all, oh, Mike Harlow, duh, he just texted me. Mike Harlow is going to be there on Wednesday night, duh. Okay. Okay, so if you don't know who Posey Parker is, her name is Kelly J. Keene, and she also goes by Posey Parker. She has been on this tour called Let Women Speak. Now, she doesn't call herself a feminist anymore. I think she used to. Much like Meghan Murphy sort of came from that feminist world from the left and has since been branded a right-winger, all the crazy stuff that they call any of us on the left who have concerns or raise questions or say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't liberalism. Or in her case, much like Meghan Murphy, her main issue has been the erasure of women and, giving women's awards to trans women, to biological men, allowing biological men to compete against women in sports, allowing men into women's dressing rooms and bathrooms and stuff. This has been her issue. And so she's been on this tour called Let Women Speak. And recently she was in Australia. I saw some of the speeches from the Australia date. If we have time, we might play some of those, because what she's doing is she's paying for it herself. She's renting out these locations. She's getting her permits. She sets up a microphone. She does a speech, and then she invites women from that city to come and talk. And I saw some of the speeches from Australia. They were amazing, very passionate, and women from all walks of life. And so she had arranged to do this in New Zealand. Now, I should say, in advance of the New Zealand date, the press in New Zealand went crazy, calling her an alt-right adjacent. They said she was a Trojan horse for the alt-right. They call her anti-trans instead of calling her pro-woman, which is what, she speaks for women's rights. That's the way she defines herself and describes it. She's there to speak for women. They call her anti-trans. I'm just going to show you. Let me take her video off the screen for a second, because I want you to see this. Look at the way that the media talks about her. So let's just put up this simple search. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now, of course, we're looking at the results today after this happened, but beforehand, it was very similar. They were like, alt-right, anti-trans, Nazi adjacent. They were saying that she cozies up to Nazis. All of the press in New Zealand was doing this. They were lying and they were defaming her, and they were putting her life in danger by saying this. If you're telling people that a Nazi is coming to the country, what do you think they're going to do? How do we treat Nazis? And it's a lie. And of course, they don't point to anything to explain why they're calling her that. Um, it reminds me of remember a few years ago when the Patriot Prayer Rally was going to be hosting an event in San Francisco, and the Patriot Prayer Rally, which was organized mostly by men of color. The organizers are all like black and Latino men, and they were organizing a rally. And Nancy Pelosi and the media in San Francisco put out the word. They said white supremacists are coming to San Francisco for this rally. That's how she described the Patriot Prayer Rally. And what happened? Antifa showed up and threatened them with violence. Of course, that's what's always going to happen. This reminds me of that. The media not only failed at their job to do accurate reporting, but they put this woman's life in danger, and they put all the women who came to speak that day, including some of the volunteers who were wearing the security vests. They put all of their lives in danger. So look at how they're reporting on it after the fact. Anti-trans activist Posey Parker leaves New Zealand. Much like anti-vax, they just use these words and they don't define what they mean, and they use them incorrectly. Anti-trans. What does that even mean? If you're saying, I believe biological sex is real, that doesn't mean you're anti-trans. That means you're pro-reality. Like, you live in the real world. That statement, I believe biological sex is real, has no, it is no indictment against people who call themselves trans or people with gender dysphoria. It doesn't even offer an opinion on that. It just says, I can observe reality. That's it. Now she goes further than that. She has opinions. She doesn't believe that men, biological men, should be in any women's spaces. That's still not anti-trans, in my opinion. They use that word like as a blanket statement to impugn her motives, to basically call her a bad person. They could choose to say women's rights activist Posey Parker, but they don't. They all say anti-trans activist Posey Parker leaves New Zealand after chaotic protests. Anti-trans activist Posey Parker leaves. Now here's the one we're going to read. This is one positive one. The shameful persecution of Posey Parker. We're going to read that one. The Posey Parker mob has embarrassed New Zealand. So the Spectator is the only one that I think is giving any alternate point of view. And so she got doused in tomato juice, and there's an iconic photo we're going to look at later, but let's just start with this. Let's start with her video. I've got a couple videos queued up because I think everybody needs to see the footage. And we're just going to jump around and watch some of this. So let's see. Let's start with her video. She was live streaming that day in the car on the way there. And then in this video, you can see some of what it looked like when she arrived there. I'm so glad she had her camera on so people could be aware.
So we're on our way to Wellington, no, Auckland, Christ. But even in news reports, they're continuing to say the most despicable things that are really, really dangerous. And I can't even tell you all the things that have happened, but I will be able to once I get back to the UK. But if I was in New Zealand, I would be hard pushed to believe anything I read in any paper or anything I saw on any news station or a damn thing any politician said. And I think that sort of goes for Australia as well. Except Sky News in Australia were great, and the Australian. But there's something really weird when you talk to a journalist who can't tell you what a fucking woman is. So excuse my language. I've picked it up from the Australians. It's difficult not to swear in such situations.
So I thought it was interesting that here at the beginning, she's talking about how she already had some anxiety and like a gut feeling about New Zealand having arrived. And I can imagine what that felt like. I'm sure it's noticeable if you're in a country that rolled over and complied and licked the boots the way they did during the past 2 years. Sorry, New Zealand friends. I know a lot of you who were who were speaking out against the lockdowns, but I'm saying as a whole, just like as a whole, our society has caved to wokeism, even though lots of us have not. As a whole, New Zealand just rolled over and let this happen. And so I bet there would be a different, like, kind of air. I think you could pick up on it, sense something different. If you're in a whole country that just rolls over for the most stringent, the most authoritarian lockdown measures for a couple of years, they allowed that. You've got a country that's like a surveillance state level of compliance, social censorship, self-censorship. So I thought that was kind of interesting that she already felt like, look, it's different here. Okay, let's just skip ahead. This video, as somebody in the chat said, I think Rib said, it's worth watching in its entirety. It is. We're going to skip ahead, though, to when she arrives and gets a look at this crowd.
As they walk past, they went, that's fucking her.
Yeah, 1 minute out by the...
Fucking hell. Hey. This is absolutely horrendous.
I know.
Where's the police? They're right. They're sat in the van, aren't they? Holy shit, people. This is the reality of women's rights.
Yeah, it is. We've actually, we're really grateful. I know it's a horrendous thing that you're going through, but we've just been ignored. For years.
I know. Well, that media woman said, "Oh, there's no issue. Nobody's talking about it."
Oh, that's the revolt. That's the revolt.
Yes. Move yourself to here, please.
Here they come. Yeah, security guys are coming.
I saw Megan Murphy on Twitter said, Megan Murphy, who's friends with Posey, she said, they wanted to kill her. Like they would have killed her if they could have gotten away with it. And I think we're about to see that. That's my takeaway too from this crowd reaction, the mob mentality. But I was just reminded of the fact that I did an event with Megan Murphy called Women Leading the Left, and here in Austin, and she insisted that we have private security. And I remember thinking, I don't know if we need that, but we all planned for it, went ahead, got it. And now I'm like, oh, I get it always. And Megan had tweeted something like they would have killed her if they could have gotten away with it. This is why I always, go ahead and spend the money and get the private security, because unfortunately we're living in a time where there are people who want to react violently just because you're saying things they may not agree with. They can't allow you to do it. It's like, not only it's beyond like they don't agree with you, so they don't want to support you with their dollars or their feet. Like that's one thing, saying, hey, I don't agree with you, so I'm not going to go to your speech. It's very different. Cancel culture is very different. It says, not only am I not going to go to your speech, or I'm not going to give you my money or whatever, I'm actually going to show up at your event and I'm going to try and shut it down so other people can't hear you. And if I get the chance, I'm going to be violent towards you. I'm going to try and punish you for having a different opinion. That's what this is.
Okay. Good luck. Turn your t-shirt inside out as you come in.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I love that woman, that New Zealand woman in the car with her who you can't see yet. Posey tells her, turn your t-shirt inside out as we go inside, like trying to protect her. Like, don't let them see what your shirt says. And the woman says, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, I love that. Yeah, screw these people.
Okay. Joshua, take this one. Hi. Good luck today.
Thank you. Go away, Ryan.
Well done. Sorry.
Right.
Where's the entrance thing? We want to go through here. Pull a gate open. Daniel, clear them out, wait.
Look, Adam, I gotta pause it for a second. Why are they wearing effing masks? Because they're in a cult. Because these are crazy freaking cultists. And they have to show you what side they're on. We're one of the good guys. That's what it's their cult symbol. Sorry, I'm getting aggravated already. Yeah, also so they can't be identified. Yeah. Force a Light, Michelle says these people would have cheered in the Colosseums in the Roman Empire. Yeah, exactly. As people were fed to lions, is exactly who these people are. These people are the Nazis. Sorry, YouTube, you're going to pull that down because I said that word, but I'm so sick of them using that word dishonestly to mislabel people like Posey to justify their own thirst for vengeance, their own hatred, their thirst for violence. I'm so sick of it. Antifa, they are the fascists. Anybody who's using violence to silence speech they don't agree with, no matter how odious you think that speech is, you are the fascist. That's who you are. And you think you're the good people. You think you're on the right side of history. You don't think the Nazis thought that? Of course they thought that. So this is after she and her security guy already got hit with the tomato juice. I'm going to show you another video where you can see that happening, but it wasn't captured on her camera.
We can't do this. Unless the police come, we can't do this. Get out here.
So there were a lot of these female volunteers in the orange. Also, one of these women, I'm going to show you one of her videos afterwards. And there were some Maori women there, and none of them got to speak. And they also put their lives in danger protecting her. I'm going to pause this. She had a permit to be there. There's a breakdown in our societal contract when the police do not come, when the police do not show up to protect you and allow you to speak. If you've gone through the proper channels and you've gotten your permit, when I mentioned the event that Megan Murphy and I did in Austin, Michelle Evans was there, Mary Lou Singleton, Isabella Malbin. We paid for and rented a space at the Austin Public Library. And similarly, a huge crowd came and tried to threaten people who were coming in to hear us, and then banged on the windows. There's footage of it here on this channel, banged on the windows during our entire lecture. It was really hard for people who had bought a ticket to be there to hear us, especially those in the back, and they were trying to disrupt the event. The police should stop this. This crowd is trying to suppress speech and to threaten with violence and intimidate people, and they should be broken up. That's my opinion. We watched the other night on Pop Culture, we did an episode on disco and in 1970s gay culture. And I learned about the big disco, what was it called? At the Chicago Sox game where they brought all these, they caused a riot on the field. They brought all these disco records and started burning them. But these people who hated disco, I had never heard of it. I'm laughing even though there was violence and there were people injured that night, because it just seems so crazy. Like today, I would give anything if the things people were upset about were what kind of music other people liked, like instead of stuff like this. But so that at that, when we were watching that footage from the 70s, like 1979, and we had a guest on the show, Tracy, and she was like, I gotta say, I love the 70s cops. Like, look at the police getting in there with their bully clubs, you know. Where are the police at events like this? These people want to kill her and silence her. The cops should be stopping this. They shouldn't be allowed to have those noise horns that they have, that, you know, those that make that awful sound. Like, they shouldn't be able to have things that cause noise pollution, all their stupid drums. I'm not saying you can't protest. You can protest, but you have to do so in a manner that still allows the event to happen. You can be standing there with your signs quietly, but if you start banging drums and playing those air horns and you start physically crowding in on them like this, you're about to see what happens when she has to fight her way through the crowd to her car. You should be stopped from doing that. I want to stop right here. I think she turned the camera off and turns it back on as she's going through the crowd. Then you see her in the car. We're about to watch footage of her going through the crowd. Look at this person's hand on her neck. I'm so glad she had her camera on. As we're about to see from the other footage where you can kind of see from above her and you can see the crowd pressing in on her. People are throwing things, water, throwing fists. That someone grabs her from behind, grabs her neck. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that part. Oh, somebody says that was her security guard's hand. Really? Oh, leading her. I see. Somebody says that's her security guard having to lead her through the crowd. Either way, I mean, whether it's someone reaching out to try and grab her or if it's her security having to take that drastic measure to push her through a crowd that's trying to grab at her, either way, it's freaking alarming. Okay, we're going to show some more footage. So I've got the famous artist Bertie Rose, who's been on Deprogram before. One of the best videos I saw. Let me see. I'm trying to restart it. Hold on. Look at that. Look at that. They're crushing her. My husband, Anthony Garcia Music, says, looks mostly peaceful to me. Yes, according to what CNN and MSNBC call mostly peaceful. It does, doesn't it? This is unbelievable. This is yeah, like someone says, this is a riot. It's a riot. I mean, can you imagine being in the center of that? It makes me emotional. She said that at one point she was thinking, if I fall down, like I'm not getting back up, you know? This crowd, whether they intend to or not, will crush you. They'll just crush you. Thank God for her security. Yeah, she is a brave woman. I'm looking at the chat. TPS, thank you for the $2 super chat. Thanks for supporting the show. I should have said at the beginning, if you want to support the show, you can give a super chat. You can become a YouTube member. We have a locals Patreon and Subscribe Star. TPS says that hand is her minority security trying to keep up. Thank you for that. Yeah, somebody else corrected me also. Either way, it's just alarming that somebody has to put their hand on her neck that way to keep her from being taken. Okay, I've got a few more. Here, let's look at this one. This, first of all, let's look at, okay, the spinoff. Here's the way that this is the typical way that the media in New Zealand has portrayed what happened. Take a look at this. Get a load of this. The spinoff says the quote chaotic, they do scare quotes, chaotic, ugly scenes at the protest were closer to joyful and celebratory. That's their headline. Joyful and celebratory. You know, don't believe the people that say it was chaotic and ugly. It was joyful and celebratory. I love that the women in the comments are not letting them get away with this crap. So here's a clip from the event. Look at the sign there. Oi, Posey, bugger off. Okay, look at these guys. Did you see that guy? You see this guy screaming, breaking down the barriers? When I tweeted this, I was like, is this January 6th? Oh, wait, no. It's the joyful, what they say, joyful and celebratory Let Women Speak event in New Zealand. Yeah. That's joyful and celebratory. Anthony, we've come full circle, men breaking down a barrier to stop a woman from speaking, right? How ironic. So weird. 2023 is weird, man. Okay, I've got a couple more that I want to show. Let's see. Oh, where's the one of the old woman being punched? Hold on, I thought I had that one queued up, but I have to find this one because this is one of the worst things I saw that day. Also, just from the footage. Oh, let's look at this. So the trans woman, the trans activist who ran up on the stage and threw the soup on her. Let's look at her speech real quick. His speech. I think it's a him.
Because I want When bad performances happen, you drop tomatoes. I dropped a liter of tomato juice because I want her to be full of black, because that's what she's advocating for.
Did you hear that? Because I want her to be full of blood.
She's advocating for our genocide. And I want her to be
Bullshit. You don't get to justify your violence by making up a lie. Posey Parker has never advocated for genocide or for harming trans people or hurting trans people or disrupting their speeches with violence the way you do to hers. She's never done that. This is projection. This is disgusting projection. You don't get to justify your violence by pretending that she's called for violence when she hasn't. You're a filthy liar. Psychopathic behavior right here. Yes, Sue. That's exactly what that is. It's Darvo. It's like, stop hitting yourself while you're hitting someone. This just makes me angry. Sorry. We're gonna look at some funny stuff in a minute so we can bring the mood down. As you can see, I've become somewhat obsessed with this because I can't believe. I mean, I do believe we're here. I can believe we're here, but at the same time, I guess I'm disappointed with some of my friends, my more friends on the left, the mainstream people, people who are more plugged into the mainstream, who haven't looked at this story and been like, "What the hell? Like, wake up, people!" I'm hoping it's going to be a wake up moment for a lot of people that look at this and say, like what James Lindsay calls a woke breaking point. Who look at this and say, "Wait a minute, this woman was attacked and assaulted." And almost crushed by a crowd and prevented from speaking because she doesn't think that trans women should be able to use women's restrooms. So what? It doesn't matter if you agree with her or not. If you're a liberal, you would not agree with this mob violence, these Nazi tactics. You would not agree with that. And you would not agree with the corporate media putting out lies and falsehoods and accusing her of things she hasn't done and calling her things she's not and putting her life in danger. If you're a liberal, you would not support any of that. You would support her right to speak, no matter if you find her opinion odious. That's what liberals do. Okay. Sorry for the yelling. Somebody, Blardful says, if you haven't woken up by now, you never will. That's not true, actually. I understand why you might think that, but that's not true. There are a lot of people who wake up in the late stages of totalitarianism when it's a little too late, of course. um, I think that I do know people who are still waking up to various degrees. So let me give you some of my hope. I don't think that that's true. I think you can still wake up. Davina, Keri's too optimistic with fanatics. Every contravening fact makes them more dedicated to their insanity. Yeah, that's true. But there's a lot of people who are in it still who are just, they're not the fanatics. They're not the hardcore people. They just kind of loosely go along with the narrative, and they hear things on the news like, oh, but isn't she anti-trans? Isn't she a Nazi? They just hear things like that and repeat it. Those people are the people I'm talking to. If you happen to be watching this and you're one of those people, look at the footage yourself. Can you honestly think that's okay, that this is okay to do to people? You're not one of the good guys. It's like that meme. Are we the baddies? Yeah. Yeah, you're the baddies. If you're the ones pushing censorship and supporting censorship, if you're the ones pushing violence and supporting violence, you are the baddies. You might be in a cult. So, okay, we are going to look at some funny things because we have to have a laugh with this heavy topic. And I did want to show, actually, wait a minute. Before we look at the funny things, let me show you a couple more clips. So, I do want to find the clip of just so you can see it, the old woman that I mentioned. Also, oh, dude, let's do this. Let's do this. Auckland Pride. Okay. This is one of the organizations that planned this riot. Let's look at how they're downplaying what happened, the violence that day. Auckland Pride, here they are on Twitter. So they say our organization demonstrated its values today and stood up to the vile anti-trans hatred of Posey Parker. The thousands of Aucklanders who came out to stand in solidarity with trans communities sent a clear message to Parker that intolerance will not be tolerated here. Pay attention to that. That's one of the things that they are the intolerant ones. This is an authoritarian ideology, woke social justice, including the trans activist part of it. TRA, trans activists, that's a part of social justice. It's under the umbrella of this whole evil ideology. And one of the things they are, it's illiberal. They're for censorship. They're for violence. They are intolerant. They're not liberals. And one of the ways they try to excuse their intolerance and to pull the wool over people's eyes, like good-hearted people, is they say, well, we might be intolerant, but it's just intolerance that we don't tolerate. It's so circular, right? It's so stupid, right? We don't tolerate intolerance. First of all, what you're calling intolerance is a lie. It's false. You just want to label anything that you don't agree with because you are the intolerant ones. You are there to shut down free speech. You're there to shut down free speech with threats, violence, intimidation, noise pollution. So that is a very Orwellian statement. We're here to we sent a clear message that intolerance will not be tolerated. That is a sociopathic statement. Okay, let's continue. Parker's subsequent withdrawal from her Wellington event demonstrates the power of community organizing and solidarity in showing her that her hateful views are not welcome here. Here, let me write this for you. Parker's subsequent withdrawal from her Wellington event demonstrates the power of our hateful views and intimidation and violence to shut down the free speech of women who we don't agree with. Like, that's how you could rewrite that. We just saw some of the footage. I saw the hatred. I saw the violence. Guess which way it was going? It was going in one direction. I didn't see any of the women who came out that day to speak, who you shut down and didn't let talk. I didn't see any of them being violent towards the trans activists, the woke people. It went one way, the violence and the hatred. Okay, Auckland Pride unequivocally stands by peaceful protest. Peaceful protest as a means of counter protest and does not endorse any physical violence regardless of the extent of injury caused. Oh, good. I'm glad you don't endorse it, but you didn't condemn it and you're pretending like it didn't happen. Because here we go. Here's you pretending like it didn't happen. There's a narrative quickly taking hold amongst anti-trans groups and individuals that Parker abandoned her event because of violence from our community. Yeah, she kind of did. We reject this narrative. We are of the firm belief that the demonstration of unity, celebration, and acceptance alongside joyous music, chanting, and noise of 5,000 supporters was too loud to overcome, and the reason for her departure, and not the actions of any one individual. We also reject that there was any further physical threat from our community towards Parker. Further physical threat? Oh, you mean other than the physical threat that forced her out of her event? Okay. This is a baseless rumor that's being perpetrated by those who feel defeated by the events of today. We urge the media not to repeat these allegations without evidence. And of course, we've seen the corporate media carried water for these ideological Nazis. This is here. In response to this guy shared a video and he was like, wait a minute, no further physical threat? Are you for real? Yeah. Somebody says the old lady was punched by a man. Yeah, I'm trying to find that one. I thought I had that one queued up. Here, I know where I saw it, so let me go there. It was one of the worst examples I saw of violence from that day. And somebody was saying, we used to have this social contract where there was sort of this agreement that women and children were treated a little differently in some ways, and women and children first kind of thing. You don't hit a woman, that kind of thing. And what's happened, in part because of the feminist part of social justice, in my opinion, what's happened in the past few decades has been this breakdown in the social contract, and this whole thing of like, oh well, men are treated differently and that's unfair. And it's like, yeah, but so are women and children. Like, everyone's treated differently. We're not equal. We're never going to be equal. We can have equal rights. We could be treated equally under the law. But in terms of what men and women are like, we are different. That's just a fact. We are different. We are interested in different things. Women and men on average report being interested in working in different areas. They keep trying to force this STEM thing, women in STEM. Guess what? Women self-report they're not as interested in working in STEM. They're more interested in working with people, and that's okay. But we've destroyed this social contract, and part of that is I think the feminist part of social justice. It lays at their feet a little bit, at our feet. I was one of those people. This whole idea that we should treat men and women the same socially. No, we shouldn't. We're different. So we've kind of abandoned this idea that, like, you shouldn't hit a woman, even an old woman. Here's some footage. This is what was happening in the crowd to the women and the old women who showed up that day to speak. Again, if you're just joining us, we're looking at the Let Women Speak rally in New Zealand, which apparently is one of the most hostile places to live if you're a woman. Look at this. Oh, there's Posey. She's in the middle. This is from a different angle. Just absolute madness. This is what the media there is pretending was joyful. This is what the media is pretending was joyful. Right. I don't know. It's just the word Orwellian gets used a lot the past few years for good reason. I mean, we are living in Orwellian times. They on the left, they try and take anything that's an effective description of their behavior and what they're doing. So they try and steal that. They try and say, oh, just like they try and steal The Handmaid's Tale, they try and steal Orwell and say, this is Orwell. They don't even know that most of them have not even read Orwell. They're not readers. That's a big myth about people. They all like to believe they're so much smarter than other people. And they like to think of themselves, I think, as well-read, but they're not. Most of them haven't read The Handmaid's Tale. Most of them haven't read 1984. They haven't read Animal Farm. They think they know what's Orwellian. Meanwhile, they use Orwellian language. Okay. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat. I am going to find this clip of the old lady being punched, because I think it's important to see that one. Here, we're almost down there, I think. And this is not just I mean, New Zealand is probably the worst. New Zealand's probably the worst, but this is not just happening there. These crazy people, they're in Austin at the event we had. They're in London. They're everywhere. It's just, I guess we found the country where you're going to see the worst example. Okay, so here's the clip we've been talking about showing. And here you can see a man punching an old woman. I'm sorry. This makes me so angry. This makes me so angry. Someone says my stream is not showing as live. Oh, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why, Ben. Thanks for letting me know. We'll check it out. Maybe that's why I can't see a couple of things I usually see on my end. But you're here, so it's happening. Okay. Anyway, this makes me so mad. I think because a lot of these people are like that guy who's hitting that old lady. He's probably going home thinking, woohoo, I did something today for trans rights. Like I'm a good person. Human psychology is fascinating. People will come up with all kinds of reasons to justify the most evil behavior and to be able to go home and push down the cognitive dissonance and to sleep at night, to find a way to sleep at night having done something like what that guy just did. You punch an old lady in the face and you go home like, I'm on the side of good, I came out with my trans allies today and we're out here and we shut down a Nazi. We shut down a right winger. You should read. There's a book that we read for book club a couple years ago. Jordan Peterson recommended it. It's called Ordinary Men. And if you're on the left and you fancy yourself an intellectual and a very well read, I would encourage you to read it. It's a book about a group of reserve police officers who during World War II became Nazis. They were put in charge. These were just ordinary men. That's what the book's called, Ordinary Men. They were ordinary men who had day jobs like dentists and doctors, what have you, and they were reserve police officers. And they became a battalion that was put in charge of executing a lot of Jewish people. And the book has a lot of studies on what could lead ordinary men or good people who think of themselves as good to participate in that kind of mass evil. And I would say you should read it, because if you don't, it's like, I think you have less insight into the evil that all human beings are capable of and that you yourself are capable of. And it's less likely you're going to be able to see it when you're doing it. Especially if you're one of these people who think that you're a good person and that like you don't have a capacity for evil. Oh my goodness, what a blind spot. What a blind spot. How arrogant. Living in the ego, like, oh, I'm such a good person. I'm on the right side of history. I could never be a part of something evil. You're the people I trust the least. Put me in a room full of humble, broken people who know their capacity for evil and admit it, like, any day. I trust those people a lot more. Okay, now we're going to see. Here we go. We're going to see something funny to help bring down some dark humor. Here we go. So I saw this meme. Lisa J, she has the best memes on Instagram, in my opinion. And this one cracked me up. This is the meme of oh crap. It's what's his name? Keenan from SNL. And it's the meme of him on a game show with his eyes bugging out. And the question is, women in this country are not allowed to gather in public and speak about their rights. And the choices are A, Iran, B, Afghanistan, C, New Zealand, D, North Korea. palate cleanser, right, Adam? He's one of my favorite people. SNL isn't that funny anymore, but he's one of my favorite people on there. When it is funny, he's usually involved. And his facial expression just cracks me up. So there we go. Speaking of this meme, I don't know if you saw, but this weekend CNN did an article, and we could maybe end on this funny thing too. They did an article about how white people should not share memes or gifs of black people because to do so is a form of digital blackface. Now, I'll be honest, I've actually seen this argument before from SJWs. I've seen it in the media before, but I had not seen it. It was new for CNN to do this, I guess. And it went kind of viral. So we can talk about that a little bit. But Tebow Talk, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for supporting the program. $5. He says these are the same people that tried to excommunicate people during COVID. Societal mental health is damaged beyond repair. Compassion is dead. Yeah, I worry about that. We are living in a mentally ill society. Like full on mental illness is embraced and presented as normal. It makes me think of that quote. I'm going to paraphrase it, so I'm not going to get it exactly right. I'm going to do it from memory, but Saint Anthony the Great has a quote about the day is coming when men will go mad, and they will look at the man who is not mad and they'll say, "You're not like us. You must be mad." And that quote is so relevant to the times that we find ourselves in now, I think. Okay. So here, let's share this. So the Hodge twins, they shared it. That's where I saw it first, I think. They said, "Sorry, white people. CNN says that you can't post gifs of black people anymore." And so here's the CNN headline. If you're white and you've posted a gif or meme of a black person to express a strong emotion, you may be guilty of wearing digital blackface, writes John Blake. And what's digital blackface and why is it wrong when white people use it? And what I think is really funny about this is it presents a funny and absurd and interesting loophole. And those things always make me laugh. And so I was asking CNN, like, is it okay if white people post memes of white people playing black people? Like, that's a loophole, right? So if we post actual blackface, does that mean we're not guilty of digital blackface? Because technically, we're not posting a meme of a black person. It's a white person playing a black person. So is this digital blackface? Is this digital blackface? Like, what is this? So here I posted a meme of Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder. I just thought this kind of absurdity of the world that we're living in just cracks me up. Like, hey, white people, don't post memes of black people. Okay, I'll just post memes of white people pretending to be black people. Yeah, Pirate Tomsky says, so post as many Trudeau memes as you want. Yay! It's so dumb. Oh, man. So here, let me stop sharing this. Oh, I still have this article pulled up. We have time. Let's read through this. We can still come back to some funny stuff at the end. This is from The Spectator. It's one of the only alternative views in the media that I've seen, because almost all the media has been like, oh, Posey Parker's a Nazi. Also, Billy Bragg, the musician, Billy Bragg, one of the biggest douchebags on Twitter. He was a big reason why she got attacked. Leading up to her appearance there, he kept sharing all these things, calling her alt-right, calling her Nazi and stuff. He's obsessed with her, Billy Bragg. And then after she was violently attacked, he's been like downplaying it and poo-pooing it like it's no big deal, just like the media. I can't stand that man. I can't stand him. Because he's the epitome of these former hippies, now yuppies, who think of themselves, they still think of themselves as revolutionaries. They still think of themselves as the resistance, having no idea, dude, you are a washed up millionaire celebrity who's on the side of the corporate media, the banks, the government, the politicians, big social. You are the establishment, you loser. Like, you have no idea. You're so blind. That guy was a huge part of this. Anyway, okay. Yeah, Billy Bragg is a Marxist piece of garbage. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to read through this just a little bit of this article. The Shameful Persecution of Posey Parker in New Zealand by Brendan O'Neill. So he says, this is what it must have been like when women were marched to the stake. Yesterday in Auckland, the British women's rights campaigner Posey Parker found herself surrounded by a deranged, heaving mob. She had tomato soup and placards thrown in her face. She was doused with water. Huge men screamed insults and expletives in her face. The shoving of the crowd became so intense that Parker feared for her life. Quote, I genuinely thought that if I fell to the floor, I would never get up again, she said. My children would lose their mother and my husband would lose his wife. It was a truly chilling spectacle. The mob's faces were twisted into masks of feral hatred. They ranted in frenzy as the diminutive Parker, her bottle blonde hair stained orange from the soup that had been dumped on her, desperately tried to make her way to the safety of a police car. It was a ritualistic shaming of a witch, a violent purging of a heretic. Next time you're reading a history book and find yourself wondering how Salem came to be consumed by such swirling hysteria, watch the clips of Posey's persecution in New Zealand. This is how it happens. This is how the fear of witches can overrule reason and unleash the darkest, most punitive passions of the mob. And what is Parker's crime? What did this witch do? She said, quote, a woman is an adult human female, end quote. That's it. Parker, whose real name is Kelly J. Keene Minshall, is well known for her criticism of the ideology of transgenderism. She thinks a man never becomes a woman, no matter how many hormones he takes or surgeries he undergoes. She thinks if you were born male, you will die male, and in the time in between, you have no right whatsoever to enter any women-only space. This is heresy. Dissenting from the gospel of gender ideology is to the 21st century what dissenting from the actual gospels was to the 15th century. And so Parker must be punished. It was a modern-day stoning, so mercifully they only threw soup and water and planks of cardboard at the blasphemer. Parker organizes public events called Let Women Speak. She has done it across the UK and parts of the US, and for the past couple of weeks, she's been doing it in Australia and New Zealand. Excuse me. It's a genius initiative. She knows these gatherings of women who merely want to give voice to their profane belief that sex can never be changed will draw out crowds of intolerant trans activists and their allies. She knows the Be Kind mob will do everything in its power to stop women from speaking. And she knows it will all brilliantly illustrate her core belief that trans activism is misogyny in disguise, misogyny in drag, if you like, and that it has devoted itself to silencing women who believe in biology. Australia and New Zealand played their parts brilliantly in Parker's clever scheme. From Melbourne to Canberra, Hobart to Auckland, huge crowds of the right on turned up to drown out the voices of the pesky women who dare to call men men. Let women speak, Parker says. No, says the mob. She incites them to confess their misogyny and intolerance in full public view, and they do. Auckland was the worst. At Albert Park in the center of the city yesterday, the mob could not hide its vengeful loathing of the uppity women who disagree with its ideologies. Parker is a new kind of witch, one who willingly submits herself to a witch trial, so the rest of us might see just how dogmatic and unforgiving the new witch hunters are. I am full of admiration for her. Her courage is shining a light on the visceral intolerance that advances under the banner of identity politics. Yes, I could not agree with this paragraph more. I am very grateful for her. The events in Auckland should be a wake-up call for liberals everywhere. We glimpsed the iron fist of authoritarianism that lurks in the velvet glove of Be Kind. The misogynistic streak in trans extremism is undeniable now. Watch enraged men kicking down metal barriers so they might get closer to the witch Posey and tell me this isn't sexism masquerading as radicalism. Witness the crowing of men who are delighted that the mob made the coward turf run away, and tell me this isn't chauvinism on steroids. Behold the use of megaphones and expletive-laden chants and physical menace to silence a woman, and tell me this isn't a sexist, censorious crusade against women's freedom of speech. That mob in Auckland did not emerge out of thin air. No, it was a brutish manifestation of a regressive idea that has been taking hold for some years, namely that it should be forbidden to dissent from gender ideology, that it is bigotry to state biological facts, that it ought to be a punishable offense, whether that punishment is being no-platformed or sacked or having objects thrown in your face, to say that men are men and women are women. This was a great piece. Brendan O'Neill in The Spectator. I would encourage you to share it because it's one of the only pieces that told the truth. In my opinion, like all the other pieces are like, oh, the anti-trans, hateful, Nazi Posey Parker cowardly ran away after the joyful crowds of celebratory, pro-equality kind transgendered allies all, showed up. Ruben. Oh, hey, Ruben. I know who you are. Good to see you. I've met Ruben in person at one of the Geeks and Gamers Friday Night Tights meetups. He says, wow, Keri, I hear your stress and pain. Know that love will win in the end, and love is the way to remove the darkness from humanity. I could not agree more. Thank you for showing up and adding that bit of positivity to the chat. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, we do have a super sticker. Where is it? I saw it somewhere. There you are. Your average Patriot nerd. Thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you for supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Okay. People were talking about, when I was talking about Billy Bragg being such a sniveling sellout part of the establishment, somebody said Johnny Rotten is where it's at, and I couldn't agree more. Johnny Rotten is based. You know who else is based? Right Said Fred. Follow Right Said Fred on Twitter. They are shockingly based. Like, I love that. I love that when you see like an actual, like somebody in entertainment who has been successful, who gained that level of power and, fame and influence, who doesn't just like fall in with the cult and with the establishment. That's pretty rare. So follow Right Said Fred. Okay, let's see. Nerdy Girl says, around 2016, someone on the left would say it's okay to punch a Nazi. Of course, their definition of Nazi became very broad and meaningless. Yeah, that's one of the things that caused me to leave the social justice cult and to do to write the first essay I wrote about it on leaving the left. What was it? On leaving the social justice cult and finding myself. Because I started to see that happening after Trump was elected. I saw the people in my world, they were simultaneously saying it's okay to, quote, punch a Nazi, and then saying, and Nazis are anyone who voted for Trump. I'm like, really? That's kind of a very broad definition. That's insane. What you're doing is you're trying to justify violence against people that have different opinions than you. And that's exactly what's happening here with Posey Parker. They're calling her that so they can feel better about being violent towards her. They're falsely calling her that. They're lying so they can feel better about being violent towards her. Yarn Witch for $5. Thank you. Says, work keeps interrupting my listening to the stream, but I wanted to send some love your way. Oh, thank you, lady. Yarn Witch is a great name today. We're talking about witches. Like the Salem witches. Anyway. Okay, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up. We are, as I mentioned, Wednesday night, we are doing a big celebratory stream celebrating 1 year of Deprogrammed. I'm very grateful for everyone who's helped support the show by being in the chats, by sharing the links. If you support the show financially, if you're a member on YouTube or Locals or subscribes to our Patreon, thank you so much. We're going to be celebrating. I know it's been 1 year. I can't believe it. It's kind of flown by because we're doing so much housework. But we're going to be celebrating Wednesday night. We're going to have a whole bunch of people here. They're going to drop in and out. I don't know how long people can stick around, as long as they want. Although there might be a capacity for guests, so I might have to stagger them. But we've got a ton of guests coming. I'm still inviting people. Basically, anyone who's ever been on Deprogram, I'm inviting. So far, I know we have Michelle from Force of Light, Buck Angel, Comics Division, Gino Buscanti, Jack Buckby, Martina Marcota, Sarah Higdon, Nick Weiser, Pierre Feliciano, Culture Casino, Epic Mike, Stephanie from Minority Home, Lila Hart, Gary from Neurotic, Drunk 3PO, Nina Infinity, Mystery Chris, and my husband, Anthony Garcia. That's going to be a crazy, crazy fun night. Oh, and Royce Lopez from Revenge of the Sis. I forgot about Royce. There's a ton of people. I haven't added them all. I'm still sending out invitations and seeing what people say. So come hang out with us on Wednesday night. Bring your party hat. Bring your favorite drink. And we're going to play some games. We're going to play some music. And we're going to have fun. Ruben asks, Keri, what is your favorite libation? Oh, thank you for asking. We were talking about it earlier. Well, I'm sober now for a little over 3 years. When I was a drinker, my drink of choice was red wine or some kind of bubbly, Prosecco or champagne. Those were my drinks. I was a bubbly hoe. I loved some Prosecco. Champagne, that was my drink. Now my drink of choice would be coffee, or if I'm celebrating, I like to ask people, the bartender, to make me a fancy mocktail and just surprise me with their favorite mocktail, and you get a lot of good drinks that way. Or I'll have Martinelli's, the best apple juice, Martinelli's, or like a sparkling apple juice. That's so good. Anthony says, Keri used to love the French 76. Yeah, when I was a drinker, the French 76 was a drink with because I didn't drink any liquor really except vodka. I couldn't tolerate any liquor. But I would have the French 76 has like vodka and champagne and Saint Germain, which was one of my favorites, and like lemon juice. But those things are those. If you drink alcohol and you get a French 76, I'm warning you, you might be on your ass pretty quickly, because it tastes like you're drinking a mimosa, and so you can knock back like several of them very quickly, and then you're out. Like, it's not a good scene. So be very, very careful if you order that. Just so you know. Let's see. Sue Escobar, thank you for the super chat, $9.99. Look at your kitties. She says, if you want to see something positive, go see the Jesus Revolution at your local theater. It's worth it. I hadn't even heard of that. I don't even know what that is. Okay, I got to write down a suggestion. I don't get to the movies like most people probably. I don't go as much as I used to. I don't know about you guys. Partially because there's nothing I want to see, and partially because people quit going during the COVID years. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for supporting the channel. Somebody says, grab your seltzers, coffee, and be ready. Yes. Sue says, sobriety rocks. I was a beer drinker. Lakers. Oy vey. That's how you say that. Anthony, yes, we've been sober 3 years, 5 months. Surly says, drink of choice is rum. When I do drink, which is rare. Yeah, I could never do anything like that. I couldn't do that. It just like, it did not sit well inside of me. Any kind of hard liquor. Adam, I hardly drink now. Oh well. I know a lot of like regular drinkers, like Mystery Chris. We've talked about this before. Mystery Chris is a normal drinker, which I think is so weird. Normal drinkers. And yeah, some normal drinkers, they get to a stage in life where they just don't drink very much at all. And it's not like a conscious thing, like you're saying, Adam. They just kind of were like, man, I don't need as much anymore. I was never a normal drinker, so I find all of that very odd. Oh wow, nerdy. I'm a bourbon and brandy lady. Fancy. I don't even know what that tastes like. Okay, guys. Oh, and Jules. Gin and tonic, ice and a slice, or a nice blended scotch for me, please. Yeah. I could never. Those are like the fancy, sophisticated drinks that I always wish I could drink, but again, they would make me sick. I couldn't do anything like that. I really liked the idea of a martini, but when I would have one, I didn't like the taste at all. No, I didn't like most almost all liquor. But then I had to what I would do is I would order a martini, and then I would do the vodka martini because that's the only liquor I didn't mind as much. And then I would just fill it up with just 20 olives and just eat the olives because I couldn't drink it. So, but you guys, if that's your drink, like super fancy, like a James Bond kind of, I couldn't do that. Conrad, 500. Thank you for the 25 pounds. Look at your joyful, exuberant profile pic. Conrad says, this is for your righteous indignation. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Sue says, I have no judgment of those who drink alcohol ever, just sharing some thoughts that I have. Oh yeah, me either. I have lots of friends who drink. If you can drink, drink. I can't. That's why. But it doesn't bother me. And fortunately, I mean, a couple of my gig jobs I'm around people who drink a lot, and it's fine. It doesn't bother me. And so like sometimes friends are very considerate. They will anticipate you might have they'll ask you, oh, I know you're sober now. Do you mind if I drink around you? I always think that's really polite, but no, I don't mind at all. And some people do. Some people who are sober are like, please don't do that around me because it will tempt me. But fortunately, I don't have that problem, knock on wood, of being around people who are enjoying themselves. At our house concerts, we have BYOB. So if you're ever in Texas, the next one is going to be in May, and you'll have to email me at deprogrampod@gmail.com to get the ticket link. The next one's going to be Latin music, and people enjoy their libations at the event, so don't feel weird about it. And people bring snacks, and we have snacks here, and it's going to be fun. That's going to be in May. So if you are in the Austin, Texas area, or you don't mind traveling, April 15th, I'll just remind you, I'm hosting Minds Fest. That's going to be at the Vulcan Theater. There's a whole lineup of people who are speaking, discussions, performers, music, and comedy. And you can get more info at minds.com. I hope to see you there. If we've never met in person before and you come, just please come up and say hello to me and introduce yourself so I can meet you in person. I would love to meet more people. I love the meetups and stuff that Geeks and Gamers and Friday Night Tights do. And I always love meeting people and putting a face to a screen name. I feel like we should have name tags because sometimes people have different screen names. They have like their secret identity name for online and their real name. And we should have those little ID cards. Okay, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up now. See you Wednesday. Hope you'll come hang out. Okay. Bye.